Hey everybody, this is the While We Still Can podcast, book club on Tyranny version. We are covering the book On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. And if you want more of an intro, hop back and look at the episode before this with the introduction and the epilogue. But we're going to jump into chapter 1 right now. The chapter title is Do Not Obey in Advance. Most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. In times like these, individuals think ahead about what a more repressive government will want, and then offer themselves without being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do. Anticipatory obedience is a political tragedy. Perhaps rulers did not initially know that citizens were willing to compromise this value or that principle. Perhaps a new regime did not have, at first, the direct means of influencing citizens one way or another. After the German elections of 1932, which permitted Adolf Hitler to form a government, or the Czechoslovak elections of 1946, where communists were victorious, the next crucial step was anticipatory obedience. Because enough people, in both cases, voluntarily extended their services to the new leaders, Nazis and communists alike realized that they could move quickly toward a full regime change. The first heedless acts of conformity could not then be reversed. In early 1938, Adolf Hitler, by then securely in power in Germany, was threatening to annex neighboring Austria. After the Austrian chancellor conceded, it was the Austrians' anticipatory obedience that decided the fate of Austrian Jews. Local Austrian Nazis captured Jews and forced them to scrub the streets to remove symbols of independent Austria. Crucially, people who were not Nazis looked on with interest and amusement. The Nazis who kept lists of Jewish property stole what they could. Crucially, others who were not Nazis joined in the theft. As the political theorist Hannah Arendt remembered, when German troops invaded the country and Gentile neighbors started riots at Jewish homes, Austrian Jews began to commit suicide. The anticipatory obedience of Austrians in March 1938 taught the high Nazi leadership what was possible. It was in Vienna that August that Adolf Eichmann established the Central Office for Jewish Emigration. In November 1938, following the Austrian example of March, German Nazis organized the national pogrom known as Kristallnacht. In 1941, when Germany invaded the Soviet Union, the SS took the initiative to devise the methods of mass killing without orders to do so. They guessed what their superiors wanted and demonstrated what was possible. It was far more than Hitler had thought. At that very beginning, anticipatory obedience means adapting instinctively without reflecting to a new situation. Do only Germans do such things? The Yale psychologist Stanley Milgram, contemplating Nazi atrocities, wanted to show that there was a particular authoritarian personality that explained why Germans behaved as they had. He devised an experiment to test the proposition, but failed to get permission to carry it out in Germany. So he undertook it instead in a Yale University building in 1961, at around the same time that Adolf Eichmann was being tried in Jerusalem for his part in the Nazi Holocaust of the Jews. Milgram told his subjects, some Yale students, some New Haven residents, that they would be applying an electrical shock to other participants in an experiment about learning. In fact, the people attached to the wires on the other side of a window were in on the scheme with Milgram, and only pretended to be shocked. As the subjects thought they shocked the people they thought were participants in a learning experiment, they saw a horrible sight. People whom they did not know and against whom they had absolutely no grievance seemed to be suffering greatly, pounding the glass and complaining of heart pain. Even so, most subjects followed Milgram's instructions and continued to apply what they thought were even greater shocks until the victims appeared to die. Even those who did not proceed all the way to the apparent killing of their fellow human beings left without inquiring about the health of the other participants. Milgram grasped that people are remarkably receptive to new rules in a new setting. They are surprisingly willing to harm and kill others in the service of some new purpose if they are so instructed by a new authority. I found so much obedience, Milgram remembered, that I hardly saw the need for taking the experiment to Germany. All right, that's the end of chapter 1, again titled Do Not Obey in Advance. So, I thought about this before the election, the Washington Post did not publish their editorial about, about choosing Kamala Harris as their candidate. And it was because they didn't want to piss off, or Jeff Bezos didn't want to piss off the government in case of a Trump victory. Because, he has, Blue Horizon is his company that, they're trying to get contracts from the government.
Contracts.
Yeah. So I'm like, the newspaper is obeying in advance.
I'm not very good at obeying any time.
In the present, let alone in advance.
Yeah, I know. I've been wearing my loud shirts everywhere, talking about it everywhere, because people they don't know what's coming. So what are ways we can resist? We can join groups. We have to get together. We have to protect the vulnerable. We are not just going to blindly listen to what people tell us. This goes back to, you have to check your sources. You have to be interested in what's going on, or you will obey in advance because you don't know what the fuck's going on. So as much as it hurts to pay attention, you have to be informed if you want to keep yourself safe and your family.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think that in this time, doing the right thing, which enough people have to do in mass for the proper outcome, it's not safe. It's not safe to speak up. It's not safe sometimes I think that, you and I thought about just winding this podcast down because it might not be safe, but I don't care. Like, I'm not going to be a person that just goes away when it's inconvenient because that's the safer thing to do.
Because I'm scared, but I'm also scared for our children.
No one listens to us, so it doesn't really matter. But
damn
it, if they
viewers.
did. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, point being, times are going to get a little harder. It's going to be difficult to speak up against the grain, against what you're told to do or told to believe, but you got to do it because the way these folks march forward is because it's along a seeded path.
But yes, just I'm trying to find some clear examples of how we can do that. Let's see. Okay, well, it's saying step away from the internet. Fuck. Okay.
Yeah. Well, on one hand, it's a valuable tool to connect with people.
So, okay, actually, you know what I was reading about ways to resist is so these groups that are forming and groups that are blindly following along, or even people in charge, I'm going to start infiltrating school boards, but it was giving examples of slow their processes down, make everything as difficult as possible, ask dumb questions, play dumb, drag your feet, make everything as difficult as possible. And I can do that.
What you're saying is you're perfectly capable of being a huge pain in the ass. Okay.
Yeah.
Now's your time to shine, girl. Yeah.
I know. I just got to get over the being quiet part.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be tough for you, too. Okay. So that's something to think about. So this is going to conclude episode 2 of our On Tyranny book club. And we'll be back soon to go for chapter 2. Okay. And thanks again for listening to the While We Still Can pod. I'm Lisa.
I'm Tina.
We'll be back in your ears soon with episode 3.